أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد. اللهم صل وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله اشترى من المؤمنين أنفسهم وأموالهم بأن لهم الجنة يقاتلون في سبيل الله فيقتلون ويقتلون وعدا عليه حقا في التوراة والإنجيل والقرآن ومن أوفى بعهده من الله فاستبشروا ببيعكم الذي بايعتم به وذلك هو الفوز العظيم. Indeed, Allah has purchased from the believers their lives and their properties in exchange for what they will have, paradise. They fight in the cause of Allah, so they are killed, they kill and are killed. It is a true promise binding upon him in the Torah and the Gospel and the Quran, and who is truer to his covenant than Allah. So rejoice in your transaction which you have contracted, and that is the great attainment. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. A man that does not have something for which he is willing to die is not fit to live. This was a statement made by Martin Luther King Jr., which is the famous Martin Luther King. He made a statement that everyone has to have a reason to live, a purpose, an aim. They have to have some form of what we call in Arabic mabadi', something, an ethic or code of ethics that we live by, that is so important to us that we will die for this. And when that time comes and I have to die for this, I have to sacrifice for this, there is nothing greater than self-sacrifice. When it comes to any form of sacrifice, nothing comes greater than self-sacrifice. Sacrificing yourself for what you believe in. Sacrificing everything that's dear to you. What is the reward for this? If I look at someone that has sacrificed everything, what are they compensated with? What's the most that you can get given on earth? What? You get remembered by others. People remember your name. They'll put your picture up. That this person, a shaheed for land, this person died for our cause. They'll give stipends to your wife and your children. They'll give them health care. They'll look after them. The indemnity that is in the hereafter is far greater. It's something that cannot even be fathomed And thus the introductory verse. And this is the benevolence of Allah. This is the generosity of Allah. Inna Allah ashtara. Ashtara. When we say Inna Allah ashtara, we're talking about a transaction that is taking place. Allah is making a transaction. The one that is purchasing is Allah. The one that is selling is the believer. But the thing that's why I say it's an act of benevolence, it's an act of grace, it's an act of kindness that has no equal. Pretty much Allah has given you this to begin with. Allah gives you something, then He purchases it back off you. Inna Allah ashtara min al-mu'minin. Allah purchases from the believers anfusahum wa amwalahum. Your nafs, yourself, Allah has given this to you. Out of His benevolence, He buys back what He has given to you. Amwalakum, your wealth and your sustenance is God-given. Allah buys this back for you. This transaction that you make with Allah, what is the price that Allah pays for yourself and pays for your wealth? بِأَنَّ لَهُمْ الْجَنَّةِ. They get paradise in return. But these people, they get paradise, which I'll go into detail about further on in this discussion. What do? He says they fight in the way of Allah. It actually mentions fight. You know, when people try to sugarcoat jihad, they'll say, oh, it is a struggle. But the jihad fi sabilillah is fighting in the way of Allah. Fighting against oppression. Fighting against being abased and humiliated. يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. They fight in the way of Allah. And they kill. And sometimes they are killed. The objective, why does He say, Allah Azza wa Jal, they kill? It's forbidden for you to go to war with the intention that I want to die. You know, sometimes you'll see people, they go into war and they want to die. Your objective when you go to war is to come out victorious. Because if you return from the battle, when you go to battle in the way of Allah, when you return as if it's the day your mother gave birth to you. You start from scratch. From scratch, another chance at life altogether. Your intention is to return victorious. However, if you fall, you attain martyrdom. And he mentions here, يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَيَقْتُلُونَ وَيُقْتَلُونَ. Sometimes they kill, sometimes they are killed. Then he says, Allah Azza wa Jal, وَعْدًا عَلَيْهِ حَقًّا فِي التَّوْرَاةِ وَالْإِنْجِيلِ وَالْقُرْآنِ. This promise that Allah has given, which is binding, because the covenant of Allah is binding. He has given this promise in the Torah, it's mentioned, and in the Injil. So it's mentioned in the original Torah, in the original Gospel, or the Bible they have today, in the New Testament, the original writings of God. And it's mentioned in the Quran. And then he says, Allah Azza wa Jal says that it's been promised. He says, وَمَنْ أَوْفَ بِعَهْدِهِ مِنَ اللَّهِ. Out of everyone that gives an oath to you, no one fulfills the oath except Allah Azza wa Jal. More than Allah. Some believers, they fulfill it to a certain degree. Allah gives you your full recompense, gives you the absolute amount that you can acquire. This is a binding contract between you and Allah. And then you are told at the end, good tidings, fastabshiru, rejoice with this trade that you have made with Allah. Rejoice. It is a correct trade that you have made with Allah. وَذَلِكَ هُوَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ. This is the greatest achievement you can have. This is the mightiest attainment. This is the best that you can possibly achieve. Many people have made this transaction with Allah from the beginning of time. Many have fought in the way of Allah. And many are fighting in the way of Allah. And many will fight in the way of Allah and fulfill this. The epitome of this is the Battle of Karbala, however. That to give you the idea of the state of these people on the night. These people did not say this is our last night on this earth. That tomorrow we will be killed. Because was the objective. There was no alternative. Why will they be killed? Because the objective of the enemy was to kill Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And these people will fight until they are killed in order to protect the Imam. And they knew this. They spent the night vigilant in worship, preparing themselves for the hereafter, even though that they were going to get the greatest success of all. On this night, one of the narrations that's mentioned is the narration about Burair al-Hamdani. Burair was one of the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Now, if you actually read about the people of Hamdan in Persia, the Imam says, if I was on the door of paradise, I will tell the people of Hamdan to enter it safely. Enter paradise. This is what kind of people that they were. They were righteous people. Another one that you would have heard about in another tale is Sa'id ibn Jubair al-Hamdani. His story with Hajjaj ibn Yusuf Thaqafi, but that's another story. That these people were righteous people. Burair on this night, as they were entering the tent to put misk on, they put otter on this night. You know, tomorrow they're going to be martyred. At least they prepare themselves in a certain way. Now, as they're queuing up to go into the tent where the Imam is to put this musk on, Burair pushes in front of one of the other companions as a joke. He's playing around with him. And the other companion says to him, this isn't a night of joking. Because tomorrow we are off to fight. And Burair says, this is some of the insight. He says, between me and paradise are their swords. I wish it was now and not tomorrow. They have a yearning to return to their Creator. They have a yearning to come back to their Creator. In one of the narrations, why they see it like this, one of the narrations on Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says, "Azhad fi dunya, okay, yubassirka Allahu awrataha. Azhad fi dunya, yubassirka Allah awrataha." In other words, izhad, when we hear the word izhad, generally we associate that with asceticism. And taban, Islamic asceticism, we disassociate this with asceticism of the Sufis and asceticism of the Buddhists. Islamic asceticism is to have a detachment to the world where I don't overindulge in this world, that I want this world for myself. That I can have a lavish lifestyle, I can live good, but I have no attachment to it. That if I have this detachment from this world, I can see the defects of this world. I can see what's wrong, so then I have a yearning for the hereafter. And I have to be attentive to this. I should not be inattentive to what this world is and what the hereafter is. People have a tendency when it comes to looking at this world, because in order for us to see what these companions saw, they have a tendency to say, hold on. I get on the news, I look at social media, and I find the unbelievers, they live a different life. They live a happier life. For example, there was an article today in the paper about a man that threw a wine bottle from an apartment and he hit another man in the head in Singapore and killed him. The article, if you read the head, this is why I hate reading the news. I don't know, this slipped in front of me. I hate reading it just before the titles are enough to boil your blood. The article said, loving Australian man kills Muslim man. This is what it wrote, Muslim man. And they put the Muslim in inverted commas. Fears of reprisal. This is what they write automatically, because they make you feel that this person's probably going to round up his family and they're going to go and slaughter this person. Even though there are many instances where they see someone came in and attacked the mosque, they apprehended him and they waited for the police to arrive. You heard of those stories? A lot of them. They didn't carve him up to pieces. Imagine going into one of these Zionist schools that we have in Australia, that you can't even look at them with Google Maps, you know that. You actually, if you want to see machine guns, go there. You actually see people with submachine guns standing outside schools, not using hyperbole. Go for it, you see. It's different there. And if you were to go into one of those schools, you will be cut to pieces before you got there. They wouldn't apprehend you and wait for the police. However, in this case, you watch this and you think to yourself, hold on. Look at the way these people live in this world. And sometimes we become lost. As a Muslim, as one of the nights Sayyid Hussein mentioned, I think the night before, he mentioned that when people see things like this, they find Islam not applicable in the world today. You know, they say, hold on, because they make you feel from the start of your life, you're not one of them. You're not one of them. You could be someone like David Warner, keep getting out for ducks, but you're white, you'll never get dropped. But you're Osman Khawaja, you're going to get dropped because you're brown. That's just the way the world is. So you say, hold on, I want to belong. I want to become like these people and be one of them so I can be accepted. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions about this in the Quran. لا يغرنك تقلب الذين كفروا في البلاد. He said, do not be deceived by the way the disbelievers go to and from in the city. How they are free to frolic and everything is made for them. Do not be deceived by this. Why? Because it's only for a short time. متاع قليل ثم مأواهم جهنم وبئس المهاد. Only متاع قليل. It's a very short time. Look at yourselves. When was it? The last Muharram just passed and the next Muharram is just around the corner. And your time just passed, a very short time. You're here in transit. It's a very short time before we get to the next place. It's only a short time. Then Allah mentions in the verse, لَكِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٌ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا نُزُلًا من عند الله وما عند الله خير للأبرار. But as for those that are careful to their duty to Allah, the ones that have taqwa, they shall have gardens beneath which rivers flow, abiding in them, and entertainment and everything they can imagine, and it's for eternity. It's for eternity. It's not only for a small moment, it's for eternity. All I need to have is what? A bit of patience. It's only a small moment. If I was to plot the existence of humanity on a timeline, this is something researchers and scientists say, compared to the time that the earth existed, there wouldn't even be a dot on it. There wouldn't even be a speck. The existence of humanity from the beginning to where we are now. There wouldn't even be a speck on the timeline of the existence of earth. If we were to plot the existence of earth onto the timeline of what the hereafter is, it wouldn't be a dot. It would be non-existent. So I have to be patient. And in fact, we get solace from who? We get solace from our Imams, salamullahi alayhim. Imam As-Sadiq says, Inna subur, that we are patient about the Imams. We are the patient ones. Then he mentions in the narration, وَشِيعَتُنَا أَصْبَرُ مِنَّا. He says, we are the patient ones, the Imams. He says, but our followers are more patient than us. Could you imagine the Imam says this? He says, we are patient, but our followers are more patient than us. One of the companions said, جُعِلْتُ فِدَاكَ, may I be at your ransom. كَيْفَ صَارَ شِيعَتُكُمْ أَصْبَرَ مِنْكُمْ. How is it that your Shia are more patient than you? And the Imam gave him an answer. He says, لِأَنَّا نَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا نَعْلَمُ وَشِيعَتُنَا يَصْبِرُونَ عَلَى مَا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. That we are patient over what we know. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam is the one that said, when the covers are removed, the veils are removed before me, I will not even gain any gain at all in certainty. I'm that certain of the hereafter. I'm that certain. You won't even get that sigh or that shock. Amir al-Mu'mineen's certainty of the hereafter, he even mentions in one narration, رَأَيْتُ النَّارَ وَالْفِرْدَوْسِ رُؤْيَ الْعَيْنِ, that I've seen fire of hell and I've seen paradise with my eye. I've seen them. So they know. He says, however, our Shia are patient over what? What they don't know. They haven't seen it. الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ. الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ. They have a great degree, they're sure, they're very sure, but they don't have this yaqeen. This will suffice for them to be successful in the hereafter. When it comes to trial and tribulations, however, people have a tendency not to be patient enough. And the thing is, what you need to understand, that any trial or mishap that occurs, there is something worse around the corner. Once I'm patient, Allah averts this from me. It won't come to me. But if I'm not patient, the worst thing happens. For example, I could lose a finger. Rather than think, why did I lose a finger? I say, Alhamdulillah, I did not lose 2 fingers. A child gets sick. Alhamdulillah, the illness is not serious. The child gets a serious illness. Alhamdulillah, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Alhamdulillah, I didn't lose another child in this manner. Even to the point, could you all please move forward? Rahmallah man dhakar al-qa'im min al Muhammad. Even in your plight today that we live in, the world we live in today, and as I mentioned, what's on the news and what's in the world around you, could it be worse? Yes, it could be worse. Everyone around you wants your blood. Everyone around you, put it this way, it is so bad that if a Muslim commits a crime anywhere around the world, the Muslims feel they have the need to apologize. That's how bad it is. But it could be worse. It could be much worse. You know, sometimes people say, oh, how long will the American administration last? And I say the American administration, even that they exist, Trump, this is out of God's mercy. It could be worse. Could you imagine a government like Mao Zedong's government ruling you? Or a government like Joseph Stalin's government ruling you? Or a government like Saddam ruling the world? Could you imagine this? So then you say, all right, I'll deal with the problem I have here. For now, I'll be patient with this. And all it is just a short term that you wait here and you are patient. And then you're compensated with what? As the narration says, you're compensated with a paradise that no eye has seen, as in the people have not seen this paradise. طبعا when we mentioned Amir al-Mu'mineen باستثناء المعصومين, they've got a different understanding when it comes to these narrations. No ear has ever heard of, and something that you cannot even imagine. It's beyond your imagination. Even when we have descriptives of paradise, these descriptives have been dumbed down for us to understand. They've been made in a manner for us to comprehend what paradise is. But it's beyond our comprehension. It's beyond anything. You could have an imagination like J.R.R. Tolkien and think of a world and imagine a world, but this world is beyond this. It's beyond anything you can possibly understand. What is the compensation for the righteous and what is on the other side? And all you are here is in this temporal world, this transient world awaiting your movement to the next world. This is the night of the 10th of Muharram. This is the night where the men, as I mentioned earlier with Borer, although they are in a somber mood, they know where they are headed. On this night, they know that when they leave, they fight in the way of Allah, they are killed, they go to paradise. So this is the night where you have to consider the women and the children that will be taken captive. This is the night of fear. This is the night of anticipation of what is about to take place. Because the next day, tomorrow, on the day of Ashura, the Imam will begin this journey after he witnesses one companion after another be killed before him. And he has lost every one of his family. It says in the narration that he gets to the point where he is given up on the enemy, that there's no chance of calling them back. So at this point, he begins first by asking to farewell his infant child. There's no one left. Bring me my infant child so that I may farewell my infant child. And this Ali al-Asghar is of the age of 6 months, that when he is given to the Imam to farewell him, the Imam takes this child. This child is at the point where he is almost still because of the fact that the child is dehydrated. The breast milk of his mother has dried up. There's nothing for him to drink. And this is a final test to show what kind of people they are. He takes this child towards the enemy and he holds him out towards the enemy. And he says to the enemy, he says, if we have committed any transgression for crime for you to kill us, then what is the crime of this child? What has an infant child done? Take this child yourselves, you take him and give him something to drink. Now, even to see this, and these enemy are hard-hearted enemies, some of them are affected by this. Because look, this is an infant, and they begin to deliberate between one another that should we give the child water? And there is a bit of confusion and conflict between them as to us giving the child water or not. And Umar ibn Sa'ad immediately says to Harmala, he says to him to silence the confusion and the argument between the soldiers. Then when he takes the arrow and he puts it in the bow, it says in the narration, he sees a whiteness from the neck glistening on this Radi'a as the Imam is holding him up. And he pulls back the arrow and he releases the arrow. This arrow, which is designed for an adult, glances the throat of the Radi'a, cutting him from one side to the other. And it says in the narrations, he flaps like a small bird from the strike of the arrow. So then the Imam, salamullah alayhi, takes the blood from beneath the neck of his infant child and he throws it up in towards the heavens. Not a single drop comes back down. And he says to Allah, if this pleases you, then take until you have accepted. Then he digs with the hilt of his sword a hole and he buries the child. Then he returns towards the tent to farewell the family. So he calls out, he says, who will bring me my horse? Who is the one that will bring me my horse so that I can go fight? Because he has seen that there's no hope with these people. And at this point, Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam comes towards him and hands him the reins of his horse. And she says, how hard is my heart? Have you ever heard of a sister that has to give the horse of destiny or the horse of fate or the horse of death to her brother that he's on his way to fight? Then she calls out all the women to come. She says, come forward and farewell him. So all the women come out and they begin to weep. Where are you going, our protector? Where are you going? There will be no one left. You leave us amongst these ravenous wolves when you leave. And they begin, some of them are kissing his hands, others are kissing his feet. They are weeping around him so that he will remain. Because after this, there's no shelter, there's no safety. And two things happen in the moment of farewell, and I'll leave you with this. The first one is his daughter Suqayna requests something from him. She says, oh father, she says, have you given up towards death? Have you given up? He says, how can one that has no aid and no helper but not give up for death? She says, oh father, then take us back to the land of our grandfather. Take us back to Medina. Says, where do we go? Where can we take you from here? Then upon realizing this point, Imam Hussein, his daughter Suqayna says, father, please come down from your horse. So he comes down and she takes his hand and she places it on her head and wipes the top of her head, as if to indicate that I'll be orphaned from this point. The Imam at this point cannot handle to see anymore, because he can see the plight. He knows where he's going. Where are these people going to be left? He gets on the horse one more moment and moves towards the enemy. Then he hears a call that says, Akhi Hussein, come back to me. So he turns back and he sees it's Zainab. She says, come down from your horse. So he comes down from his horse and she embraces him on his neck. And she kisses him on his chest. And then she turns towards Medina and she says, oh mother Fatima, this is your request and it has been fulfilled. Imam Hussein says, you have broken my heart by mentioning my mother Fatima. What is this request? She says, when I was a child and my mother was on her deathbed, she brought me close to her and she kissed me on the neck. She embraced me on the chest. And she says, when you are in your last moments standing with your brother Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I want you to embrace him on his neck, because this is where the sword will be placed. I want you to kiss him on the chest, because this is where the hooves of the horses will trample. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalabin yanqalibun wal aqibatu lil muttaqin wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin.